Alright everybody, now we're going to talk about William Shakespeare. I've been looking forward to this forever. Most of you who know me a little bit, you know that I'm a great big Shakespeare fan. Shakespeare is the greatest writer in the English language. There really isn't anybody else that's a candidate. Okay? He is, might be the greatest writer in any language, but there's a lot of reasons why he considers Shakespeare to be the greatest. One of them is he is more quoted than any other writer, unless you count the Bible. The Bible is quoted more than Shakespeare is. Shakespeare is quoted more than anybody else. So Shakespeare is everywhere in official sources, other people, other writers that are quoting him. There's another group of people that quote him all the time too, and that is you. That's right, you quote Shakespeare every day. You see, Shakespeare invented 1/10 of the popular expressions that are in use still today, 400 years after his death. There's a link on the PowerPoint there. I'm going to put that link down there in the description so you can check it out. I'm just going to look at this right here. This goes to a website that gives you a couple of the words and phrases that were coined by Shakespeare. Again, this isn't even all of them. And you'll take a look at how long this is. Just a couple of them that you might be familiar with. As merry as the day is long, as good luck would have it, in a better world than this, a brave new world. To break the ice. If you ever said, well, we got to break the ice for that, that's him. To catch a cold. If you ever caught a cold, you're quoting Shakespeare. If someone is as dead as a doornail, you're quoting Shakespeare. If you feel like everyone's all crowded you up and say, I need more elbow room, that's quoting Shakespeare. If something lasts forever and a day, if you say, oh, for goodness sake, you're quoting Shakespeare. If someone says to give the devil his due and say, oh, I don't like him anymore, good riddance, that's quoting Shakespeare. If someone has a heart of gold, if someone is in a pickle because they don't know exactly what direction to go, that is quoting Shakespeare. If someone says, oh, it's not really good, it's not really bad, it's kind of so-so, that is quoting Shakespeare. If you are killing someone with kindness, if you ever laughed yourself into stitches, that's quoting Shakespeare. If something melts into thin air, you're quoting Shakespeare. If you're making much ado about nothing, that is quoting Shakespeare. If something happens all at once, it's a bad thing. If it happens all at one fell swoop, that's quoting Shakespeare. If you say, oh, what a piece of work this guy is, that is quoting Shakespeare. I'm going through these quick. There's a lot more in there. If someone looks really, oh, that's a sorry sight, that's quoting Shakespeare. If someone said, well, here's the long and the short of it, that's quoting Shakespeare. Although in the Shakespeare, he says the short and the long of it, but still, that's Shakespeare. Trying to get through. Oh, if you've ever called someone a son of a B word, that is quoting Shakespeare. And if someone says, "Oh, what the dickens?" Oh, and if someone goes on a wild goose chase, that's quoting Shakespeare. And there's a bunch of other ones. If you ever talked about having an eyeball, you're quoting Shakespeare. He invented that word. There's piles and piles of them. You quote Shakespeare every day without even knowing it. And that is one measure of how good a writer somebody is if they are quoted by other people, and Shakespeare definitely is. Shakespeare wrote somewhere in the neighborhood of 38 plays that we know about. And here is the thing. We know of more people that wrote more. You remember we talked about Plautus. He wrote in the neighborhood of 100 plays. So writing 38 plays is pretty impressive, but that's not why that's impressive. What is impressive is of those 38 plays, they are all excellent works. If he had written only Romeo and Juliet, we'd still be talking about him today. But Romeo and Juliet isn't even his best play. Every single thing he ever wrote is still being studied today. They're all still being produced. If you look up any Shakespeare play and look up productions that have happened in the past year or something like that, you will find it. They are all still being produced. And that's never happened. Every other writer, they'll write some good stuff, and unless they only write one thing. If they write more than like 2 or 3 things, they'll write some good stuff and they'll write some garbage. That's normal, you know? Like if you've ever heard of the novel Moby Dick, made by a guy, oh my gosh. Melville, thank you. I couldn't think of his name. If you've ever heard of Moby Dick, written by a guy named Melville, fantastic novel, but Melville also wrote some garbage and stuff that's not very good, because that's normal. But not Shakespeare. Nothing he wrote wasn't awesome. Now, we're going to talk about his plays. He also wrote a lot of poetry, but we're going to talk about his plays. There are 3 kinds of plays that he wrote. One of them was a history play. Another kind was a comedy play, and finally he wrote tragedies. Let's start with the histories because that one will take the least time for us to talk about. So the histories, these were plays that were based on the history of England. So he took, they were usually named after a king, like there's some called King John or King Henry VIII or something like that, and he would write a story based on stuff that happened during the time of this king. And they're very, very popular in England, more so than they are here, because, well, as you'd expect, if someone was making a play about American presidents, they'd be more popular in America than they would be outside of America, right? So in the same way, these are more popular in England, but they are also very popular in other places because in addition to being about history, they're just really, really good plays. He does take some poetic license. He changes some things around. He adds in characters. He adds in scenes. Things that probably no one had really said. He makes them more dramatic in what they were saying. But they are, in essence, history as it was seen in his time period. Now, I want you to know about two of them. Just two. There's a lot of them. But the two that I want you to know about, the first one is called Henry V, and the second one is called Richard III. Now, the reason I want to talk about these two plays, and I'm going to talk about them together, is that they're kind of connected. Henry V and Richard III were both real people. They were real kings. And they both ruled England around the same, not the same time, but when similar things were happening. They were both wartime kings. They ruled the country when there was a time of war. Henry V was the ruler of England when there was a great big war with France happening. In fact, if you've ever heard of Joan of Arc, he was the man that ordered Joan of Arc killed because she was the one fighting against him. He was in a war with France. Richard III was a king during a time of the Civil War. There was a civil war called the War of Roses, where there were two great houses that were fighting against each other. They were both wartime kings, which means they both did good things, but they also did terrible things. That's kind of what war does. And some people loved them, and some people hated them. But here's the thing. When Shakespeare wrote this, Henry V still had relatives, descendants that were in power. Richard III's descendants had been defeated. So he wrote Henry V as almost this saint, this wonderful, great leader of his people. He wrote Richard III as a monster, as this terrible, terrible tyrant that did bad things and like tried to seduce other people's wives and stuff like this. And today, that is how they are remembered. Henry V is thought of as this saintly, wonderful king, except by the French. They don't like him. But everybody else thinks of him as this wonderful, wonderful king. And Richard III is remembered as a monster. This terrible hunchback guy who was just kind of really creepy and trying to do terrible things, killing children in their sleep and stuff like this. And the cool thing is that, like I said, they were probably on equal measure of good and bad in real life. But they are remembered as being how Shakespeare wrote them. That is the power of a good writer. It's been said that history is written by the winners, and there's some truth to that. Like if you got a war and your country wins the war, then you can talk about how your country was righteous and great and stuff like this. But there's even more truth in the fact that history is written by good writers. You look at the history you guys are going through right now. Think about this whole coronavirus thing. Somebody, maybe it's one of you, is going to write a wonderful novel, play, movie based on this. And you know what? If it's good enough, that's how people will remember it. Okay, let's talk about the comedies then. So the comedies are really, really good. Yeah, he actually wrote more comedies than anything else, although oddly enough, you're probably more likely to be familiar with the tragedies, which we'll talk about next time. But the comedy, when I say comedies, it's not quite the same thing that it means to us or that it meant to the Greeks. There were funny things happening in the comedies, but there were also funny jokes that happened in the tragedies and the histories. So the fact that there were funny things wasn't what made it a comedy. In the Renaissance, the word comedy for them meant that it had a happy ending. Usually with someone getting married. Not all his comedies end that way, but most of them do. The great majority end with people getting married. So a lot of the comedies have to do with love in some way. Now the first of his comedies I want you to know about is one called The Comedy of Errors. Now, usually at this point I would start showing you them on with action figures or whatever, but the Comedy of Errors I won't do that because we already have. You see, the Comedy of Errors is basically the same play as the Twin Menechmi by Plautus, which we already talked about back in the Roman times. Shakespeare loved Plautus. He thought this was a really great play, so he basically retold it. Except he did change a couple of things. He still has two twin brothers who have the same name and look exactly the same. He does change their name. I think Menechmus was a little bit hard, he thought, for people to understand, so he names him instead Antonio or Antiophilus or something like that. But it's something a little bit more normal. So he has those two twin brothers, and they're still mistaken for each other in the same way like this. He changes a couple of things. So for one thing, the prostitute isn't a prostitute. Yes, of course, there were still prostitutes during Renaissance times, but in Roman times this was considered perfectly okay for this guy to go around with his prostitute when he's a married man. Not so in Shakespeare's time. We would immediately hate this character. So, he doesn't have that happen. Instead, she is an innkeeper. Other than that, though, there's still adultery going on, but not prostitution. The other change, and the major change, is that, you remember how this Menechmus, or one Menechmus, had a slave? Well, Shakespeare said, well, wouldn't it be fun if we went ahead and had this Menechmus also have a slave, or a servant? In Shakespeare's day, slavery wasn't so much a normal part of life as it was in Roman times, so he makes them servants. But he gives him also a servant, and it turns out these servants are also long-lost twins that also have the same name. So all the craziness of those guys getting mistaken for each other is doubled because we also now have two twin servants who keep getting mistaken for each other and mistaking their master for the other guy's master, and it's a wild and crazy play. There's other differences as well. It's a great play. In fact, I'm going to put a description in the description below. I'm going to give a link to a summary version and then also to a full version. Again, none of those are required, but if you think that sounds like a fun play to watch and you want to watch it, especially watching it with your family, oh wow, Shakespeare's fun to watch. So I highly recommend it if you have the time and the interest to be able to watch that. The Comedy of Errors by William Shakespeare. Alright, the next play I'm going to tell you about is, of all Shakespeare's comedies, the one that is most popular. It's most widely known, and it's most widely done. It's also the only comedy that we've done here at Lynn Classical, or at least in my time. And that play is called A Midsummer Night's Dream. It is a wild and crazy play. One of these plays that if we had you here, I would need to get like about 5 or 6 of you up on the stage to act it out because it's not something that can just be told. Now, I'm going to go over it with action figures and stuff like that, but it's going to be, I got to let you know, it's just going to be a summary because there's so much things that happens. This one I'll definitely put a description down below, and I highly recommend you see it because it's a really wonderful play. So, let's talk about A Midsummer Night's Dream. Okay, so Midsummer Night's Dream is basically a love story. So it starts off with a character named Hermia. Hermia is gorgeous, and everyone in the whole town is in love with her, especially Lysander. Lysander loves her very much, and she loves Lysander, and that would be all very happy and wonderful. Except that you know who doesn't like Lysander? Hermia's dad. Hermia's dad does not like Lysander. And he says, no, I don't like him. I don't want you to like him. I want you instead to like this guy. This guy's Demetrius. He is the guy that I approve of. And Hermia's like, but I don't like him. He said, well, that's too bad. I'm your dad, and so I say, what I say goes. If I say you're going to marry Demetrius, then you're going to marry Demetrius. And he goes actually to the Duke of the country, and he says, hey, don't I have the right to make her marry whoever I want to? Yep, he does. He can make you marry that if you want to. You can either marry him or promise to never get married to anybody, like become a nun and stuff like that. Or he can have you killed. Well, I don't want any of those things. Well, that's too bad. Those are your choices. Now, Demetrius, of course, likes Hermia as well, but she doesn't like Demetrius. You know who does really like Demetrius? Helena. Helena is another woman in the town. Her and Demetrius apparently used to be an item, but he doesn't like her anymore. He doesn't want her around. Instead, he wants Hermia. And so the Duke tells her, well, you got to get used to the idea. Get used to the idea that you're going to marry Demetrius, because if you don't, then you're either going to have to be a nun or get killed. He says, Demetrius and Father, I need to talk to you guys about something for a second. So they walk away. leaving these two alone together, and she's very, very sad, and Lysander says, it's all right, it's all right. Love will overcome. In fact, it's the first time in Shakespeare or in any time someone's used the expression, the course of true love never did run smooth, which is the theme of this play. And he says to her, I've got a plan. I have a relative in the other town through the woods, on the other side of the woods. If we could run away from home, go through those woods, I will marry you there, away from that law. And so she agrees that they're going to do that. They're going to sneak off into the woods, go through the woods to the town on the other side, and elope and get married over there. Now, while they're making these plans, in walks Helena. Now, Helena, she kind of hates Hermia. And she knows it's not really Hermia's fault, but, you know, it's like she loves a guy and the guy loves her. So she kind of hates her. And so she kind of talks about, oh, why do I have to be ugly and no one likes me? I wish I would look like you. And Hermia feels kind of bad about this because, I mean, she doesn't want Demetrius anyway. And to try to make her feel better, she says, well, you know what? I'm going to be gone soon. So hopefully then Demetrius will look back towards you. And they tell their story. They tell about how they're going to sneak away and get away. And she says, hopefully after we're gone and married, he will turn his heart back towards you again. And these guys leave. Now, if Helena had just said, okay, I'm going to sit here and wait for him to come back to me, everything would turn out fine. But instead, she's very, very desperate. So Helena tells Demetrius about the fact that Hermia and Lysander are running away together. And because she thinks that he'll just say, oh, well, forget about them then. Well, I still like you. But instead, he says, well, I'm going to stop them. And he runs after them. He's going to go off into the woods to try to stop them from eloping. And Helena chases after him to stop him, and just because she loves him and she's chasing him. And that's where the play starts to get complicated. Because it turns out the woods are not empty. The woods are instead populated by magical elves and fairies that have magical powers. And we're going to run into some of these elves and fairies, and as we run into them, that's when the play gets even more complicated. Alright, so the two major important fairy characters that you meet is Oberon, who is the king of all fairies, and Titania, who is the queen of all fairies. And they're angry at each other right now. They've got a little tiff that they're having right now, and so you see them gather together and argue a little bit, and she's not willing to make peace, and so Oberon is very, very upset about it. And so he calls for his servant, Puck. And so Puck comes in and he says, Puck, I am going to punish my wife, and you're going to help me. Do I have to? Yes, you do. All right, so if you go all the way over there to another mountain, you're going to find a flower. And if you find that flower, I know how to use that flower to make people fall in love with the first thing they see. Go get me that flower. Yes, master. So off goes Puck to go get the flower he asked for. So while Puck is gone, in comes Demetrius being chased by Helena. And Oberon says, oh, humans, I will make myself invisible. So he says he's invisible, so they can't see him. Of course, the audience still can. And while they're there, Helena is being really disgustingly desperate. And she's just chasing after him, and he's like, go away, I don't like you, I don't like you. He's like, oh, but I love you anyway. I will kick you away, then I will kiss your foot. You know, it's all really just humiliating kind of stuff. And she's doing it because she's desperately in love with him. Eventually, he just says, I'm going to run away from you. And she says, then I'm going to chase you. And she chases after him. Now, Oberon is watching all of this, and he says, that should not be. Man should not run from woman. Woman should run from man. It should work the opposite way. I'm going to fix this. So, Puck comes back carrying the magical flower that he's retrieved. He says, thank you very much, Puck. I want you to take part of this flower and go find a woman and a man somewhere in this wood. There's a man wearing Athenian garments, and he is being very cruel to a woman. I want you to spread this flower on their eyes so that the next thing he sees will be her, and he'll fall in love with her. Meantime, I'll take some of it and go take care of my wife. So he goes off to do that. And Puck says, all right, yes, master. And he goes off to try to find them. Meantime, we now see Hermia and Lysander coming in. They're looking around and they've frankly gotten lost in the woods. And they're lost and they don't know exactly where to go. And it's gotten dark. And so Lysander says, I'm sorry, I'm totally lost. I don't know where I'm going. Okay, well, here's a nice little clearing. Let's fall asleep here. And while we're sleeping, when we wake up in the morning, there'll be more light, we'll be able to see where we are. And so they lie down together, take a nap. Now, Lysander thinks, oh, well, this is going to be my wife anyway. So he's like, hey, how about if I snuggle up next to you while we're sleeping? And she's like, nope, 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 you wait until we are married for real. You stay over there and I'll stay over there. He says, okay. It's very important that they're sleeping apart. So while they're sleeping, in comes Puck, and he goes, I've been going all the way around this woods, and I can't find anybody, Athenian or otherwise. Oh, wait, here he is. He's right here. He's wearing Athenian clothes, and this must be the girl, and he's being so cruel, he won't even let her sleep beside him. Well, we'll take care of that. He takes the magical flowers, puts them on his eyes. Now the next thing he sees, he will fall in love with. And off goes Puck to report to Oberon. And then in comes Demetrius, still looking for Lysander and Hermia, and Helena is chasing him. And he says, no, you stay here, I am going. And he runs away. And she's, I'm so tired of chasing him. I can't chase him any longer. Oh, why does he keep running from me? I must be as ugly as a bear. And then she sees Lysander lying there asleep. And she says, oh no. Is he asleep or is he dead? Because as far as she knew, he was supposed to go through the forest to the other city, and he wasn't supposed to sleep here. So she's afraid he might be hurt. So she wakes him up. And he wakes up, looks at her, and immediately falls in love now with Helena. And he's like, oh, Helena, you are the most wonderful, beautiful of all. I was like, what are you talking about? You love Hermia. No, how could anyone ever love Hermia once they've seen Helena? And she thinks he's making fun of her. And she's like, oh, you're so mean to be making fun of me. It's bad enough that Demetrius doesn't like me. Why you gotta be making fun of me? She slaps him in the face and she leaves. And he says, oh, Hermia, you lie there. I don't want you anymore. I'm going to go after Helena. And he goes after Helena. And Hermia is lying there alone for a little while. And then she wakes up and says, oh, what a terrible dream I've had. I dreamed that there was a snake trying to bite me. Lysander? Lysander? Where are you? Where'd you go? She doesn't know what happened to Lysander. She's very afraid of him. And so she runs off to try to find him. Now, a little later in the play, Oberon is there and he's wondering, I wonder what happened to Puck. And Puck comes in and says, hey, I've done it. I've done all my stuff and everything's wonderful. Says, oh, good job. So you found the Athenian and all this? Yep, that's all taken care of. And then in comes Hermia, being chased by Demetrius. And he says to her, and Oberon rather says to Puck, oh, yeah, this is the guy. And Puck says, no, that's the lady. That is not the guy. Oops! And they both make themselves invisible and watch what happens. And Hermia's like, where is my Lysander? What did you do to him? You're here, he's not, you must have done something to hurt him. I don't know what happened to him. I don't care anyway. I wish he would be dead. Did you kill him? Oh, you're so mean to have killed him. He's like, I didn't kill him. For all I know, he's fine, but I haven't seen him. You're shouting at me for the wrong reason. Besides, you're my wife. I'm going to marry you, remember? He's like, no, I don't like you. I love my Lysander. Where is he? And she goes off to try to find him again, and he's going to chase her when Oberon just like, sleep, and he falls asleep. Says, Puck, you screwed it up. You screwed it up bad. You went ahead and got the wrong couple. Go through this wood and find Helena. Bring a woman named Helena here to me. He says, okay, I'll do what I'm talking about. And he goes off to do that. He says, all right, let me fix you. He puts the magic potion on his eyes. Now he's going to fall in love with the next person that he sees. And then he turns himself invisible again. And Puck says, okay, I've got him. Here they come. And here comes Helena being chased by Lysander, who's still in love with her. He's like, no, leave me alone. She literally trips over Demetrius. Demetrius sits up, looks at her, and now he has fallen in love with her as well. And he's like, oh, Helena, I love you. No, I love you. No, I love you. No, I love you. And these guys are going to fight over her now. She is thinking, oh, you're both making fun of me. What a bunch of jerks you are. In comes Hermia, and she's like, oh, Lysander, there you are. I was so worried about you. He's like, I don't like you anymore. No, now I only like Helena. Oh, no, I like Helena. Oh, I like Helena. Leave her alone. She's mine. And Hermia sees this, and she thinks, you jerk. You stole my boyfriend! And she's about to, like, jump at her and attack her when these two both defend her and say, no, you leave her alone because she's my girlfriend. And they say, no, she's my girlfriend. No, she's my girlfriend. They decide they're going to go off and fight over her. And that leaves these two alone, and then she's like, okay, now I'm going to kill you. I'm out of here! And she runs away from him. This whole time, Puck is laughing his head off at this. He thinks this is hilarious. And Oberon's getting more and more upset. He's like, you have screwed up everything. Well, I just think it's funny, sir. It's like, all right, we've got to fix this. You know what? You've got to fix this. You fix this, get them in the right places. And he leaves to take care of something with his wife. And Puck says, okay, fine. He calls out using his magical powers, gets these guys in here, sleep, and then sleep, and then sleep, and then sleep. Okay, now we got to fix this. Let's see. I've got the antidote here. He puts the antidote on this guy's eyes so that now he can see with his own eyes. Let's leave this guy enchanted. He's better off enchanted. And that way, this guy will be with this girl, and this guy will be with that girl, and everything will be fine. Whew. So the next morning, the Duke is out hunting with his fiancée and with the father of Hermia. And they run across these two pairs of lovers lying here in the middle of a clearing in the woods. And he's like, what is going on here? Here's my daughter along with Lysander that I hate and Demetrius who I wanted to marry. What's going on? He's like, this seems odd. Blow the trumpet, please. And he has the servants blow a trumpet, and all of these guys wake up. And he's like, what are you doing here? And Lysander says, well, to be honest, sir, me and your daughter were going to steal away and elope. And that's why we left, is so we could get away and marry each other. It's like, you see what he's doing? He's doing this thing. He's trying to steal away my daughter away from the guy that I wanted to marry him, so away from Demetrius. And Demetrius says, actually, sir, if it's all the same to you, I have changed my mind. I don't want to be with your daughter anymore. Now I love Helena. And then the Duke says, well, love must prevail. I over decree what you have said. You don't get what you want. Instead, marriage between these two pairs of lovers and these two pairs of lovers will happen. And so at the end, he gets married to his fiancée. These two get married, and these two get married, and that's basically the end of the play. Start? Okay. There's actually a lot more to it than that. I'm giving you a very small summary. I haven't told you about the thing that Oberon and Titania were actually fighting about and how he gets revenge on her. There's a bunch of people in the woods that are not very good actors that are trying to put on a play. The Queen of the Fairies ends up falling in love with a mutated donkey monster. It's a wild and crazy play. It's a lot of fun. I highly recommend that you see it if you haven't. Great play, though. And like I said, probably the most popular of Shakespeare's comedies. Another one of his comedies that I would like you to know about is called Much Ado About Nothing. Now, if anybody has ever heard that expression before, that, oh, you're making much ado about nothing, that comes from this play. Shakespeare invented that expression as the title of this play. So Much Ado About Nothing, again, is a play about love. And it's also about gossip and about how rumors can make people fall in love, and also how they can make them, how rumors can destroy love. So the main characters, the most important characters in Much Ado About Nothing are Benedick and Beatrice. Benedick and Beatrice are both very clever people, and they hate each other. They're constantly fighting. Every time they see each other, they fight with each other. And the reason is, they're both too clever. Beatrice is so clever that she can smack around any other guy with her words. But Benedick is also clever enough that he can often disarm her. And she is the only one that can disarm him. And so they hate each other. But their love is part of what drives this whole story. You see, Benedick has a friend. His name is Claudio. he has another friend whose name is Don Pedro. Don Pedro is the king, basically, of the whole country. He's the prince. He's the leader of the country. And he has a brother named Don Juan. Keep those guys in mind. They'll come back in a second. But Claudio and Benedict have both decided that, girls are no good at all. They're soldiers together and something. Yeah, girls are no good. We're going to be bachelors forever. And Beatrice is like, thank goodness. Any woman that would be with you would be very, very sad. She has a cousin whose name is Hero, who has a maid named Ursula. Hang on to Ursula in your brain for a little while. But her cousin named Hero sees Claudio, and the two of them see each other from across the crowded room and say, ooh, so pretty. And they kind of fall in love with each other. And so Claudio comes to Benedict and says, oh, have you seen her, that beautiful woman, Hero? Oh, I love her so much. What? I thought we were going to go ahead and never marry anybody. He's like, but can the whole world buy such a jewel? Yes, it can, and a box to put it in as well. He's like, oh, I love her so much. I want to try to see if I can get her to marry me and stuff. Oh, I think you should waste your time. Don Pedro comes in, hears this, and he decides he's going to set them up. He's like, okay, I think she will definitely like you. Tell you what I'll do, Claudio, I will set it up. I know you're shy, so I will set it up, and I will ask for her hand of marriage in your name. Say, oh, would you really? Okay, sure. And so they decide he's going to do that. So there's a great big masquerade party put on by Hero's father. Now, Hero's father can see that Claudio likes her and says, oh, yeah, I think Claudio likes you and he's really, really cool. So you be really good because I think he'd be a great match for you. Oh, I like him too. And she's like, well, he seems okay. His cousin's a real jerk, or his friend Benedict's a real jerk, but oh, yeah, we all know how you feel. So in the middle of this masquerade, Don John sees all this stuff going on, and he sees only part of it. He decides that he's going to be a villain. He kind of doesn't like his brother, and he wants to try to ruin his brother's name. But mostly, he's just a troublemaker. He likes to cause trouble. And so he decides he's going to cause trouble in this whole thing. He can see that Claudio likes Hero. And so they're in a masquerade party. They're all wearing masks, okay? And so he's wearing a mask, and he goes over to Hero and says, oh, yes, my name is Claudio, and I love you. Would you marry me? And he's watching this happen from a distance. And Don John comes in behind him and says, hey, are you Benedict? Because he can't tell because his mask is, oh, yeah, sure am. He's like, oh, I see that that's my brother Don Pedro. He's asking Hero to marry him, and Hero should not marry him because Hero's a terrible, terrible woman. I know bad things about her. I'll tell you more about it later. And he leaves. Now, he hasn't heard any such thing. He's just trying to cause trouble. But Claudio hears this. He's like, oh my goodness. Don Pedro is asking her for himself. Oh, I thought he was going to ask him for me. Oh, I'm so mad. Now I'm so hurt. And he's walking away. And he's like, oh, why are you so sad? He's like, oh, Don Pedro's going to betray me and ask the other. He's like, he wouldn't do that to you. And then while he's standing there, Don Pedro walks up with Hero. And he says, hey, everybody, guess what? He's like, yes, I can guess what. I can guess what you did. He's like, did you really think I would do such a thing to you? No, I have wooed her in your name, and she has agreed, and her father has agreed, and so you are to be married. And so they all hold hands, they're all happy, and everyone cheers, and she says, yay, hooray for you. Yeah, Hero, you've met the only guy of this party that's any good at all. And he's like, well, you're a horrible person too. No, you're a horrible person. I'm not going to go through their whole spiel. They do this very clever tete-a-tete sort of thing, and they're all watching them do this until he just can't stand it anymore. I cannot handle you anymore, and he leaves. Now, these guys are watching this happen, and she leaves too. And Don Pedro and Claudio and Ursula and the father and everybody, they're all watching this happen, and they say, and Don Pedro says, you know what? They'd be a good couple. We should set them up. And these guys say, no, they would hate each other. He's like, I'm not joking. I think they would make a really great couple. It'll be one of Hercules' labors, but let's try to set them up. Do you agree? He's like, all right, yeah, let's do that. That'll be fun to try it anyway. So this is what they decide they're going to do. First, the guys decide that they're going to work on Benedict. Now, Benedict, they're all getting ready for the weddings and stuff, and Benedict, as I told you, is very down on love. And so he's kind of trying to avoid them while they're going all through all this love stuff. And so while he's doing this, he sees them coming. He says, I can't handle them. I'm going to hide behind this tree. So he hides behind a tree, and they see him hiding, but they pretend that they don't. And so they come forward and say, okay, you see him? Yeah, we see him. Okay. So, Claudio, what's this that you're telling me about how Beatrice is desperately in love with Benedict? Oh, yes, she is. She's so much in love that she's in pain. She loves him so much. Well, she's a beautiful woman. I wish she would like me. Yes, I know, but her heart is only for Benedict's. Oh, I wish she would like me. But are you going to tell Benedict his good news? Oh, no, no, no. Benedict's a terrible person. He'd just make fun of her. It's a shame because she's such a wonderful woman. She'd make a great wife for him. But he's just so proud and stupid that he'd just never go with her. Yes, I know. I suppose it's best if we just told her to forget all about it. Yes, we better do that. And then they leave. Now, they know very well that he has heard all this. And they said, you think he heard it? Yeah, I think, let's send Beatrice to call him into dinner. Yeah, that'd be funny. So they leave. And then Benedict comes out from behind the tree. He's like, is it true? Is this really what my friends think of me? That I'm that proud? This woman, Beatrice, she is beautiful. And she is certainly very wise. You know what? I'm gonna be in love with her too. I will not spurn her. I will return her love. And so they send Beatrice to ask him to dinner. And she knows nothing about this. She says, against my will, I've been asked to go get you for dinner. Oh, thank you very much for your wonderful pain. It wasn't painful. If it had been painful, I wouldn't have even bothered to come. Oh, then you take pleasure in talking to me? Yeah, sure. As much pleasure as you would take if I shoved a knife in your heart. You're so clever. Okay, whatever. If you're not hungry, then just stay here. Whatever. Oh, she does love me. I could tell by the look in her eyes. So now everything she says convinces Benedict that she does in fact love him. Now that's what the guys have done, and now the girls need to do the same thing to Beatrice. So Hero and Ursula decide they're going to do the exact same thing to Beatrice. So they are out here talking, and they make sure somebody passes the room and say, hey, Beatrice, they're talking about you. And so Beatrice sneaks up behind them to watch them to see what's going on. And they know she's there, but they pretend that they don't. And they say, what is this that you've heard about Benedict being in love with Beatrice? Oh, yes, he is so much in love with her, and he's so sad. He's almost weeping and crying. He's so much in love with her. Oh, wow, what a lucky, lucky woman, because he's so handsome, and he's so brave, and he's so rich, and he's such a great, great man. Are you going to tell her the good news? Oh, I never tell her that. You kidding me? She will just be mean and horrible. She's such a shrew, and she's probably going to end up alone and old and alone without anybody because she just can't settle for anybody, and she's going to, she just tear him apart. No, I'm going to tell him to forget all about her. Oh, yeah, I suppose it's the right thing to do. It's a shame, though, that such a great man would go to waste like that. And they leave, and she's like, is that really what all my friends think about me, that I'm that proud? Well, then, I will love him. I will love him even better than it was reported. And so now both of them have decided that they are going to be in love with each other, even though they hated each other just like a day ago. So they both decided that they're going to love each other. Now, in the meantime, Don John still wants to cause trouble. Now, there's a whole wedding going on, as I told you, and he runs into his brother Don Pedro and Claudio says, hey, I need to talk to you guys. He's like, what do you want to talk to us about? He's like, well, look, I know I was wrong in the masquerade where I thought that he was asking Hero to marry him, but you know what? You really do want to know about what Hero is like. She's not as good a person as it looks like she is. It's like, stop saying bad things about my fiancé and my girlfriend. Yeah. No. Listen, just watch. I'll bring you to a spot where you can watch and you'll see what I'm talking about. And so he brings them to a hill where they can look over this place into the window of Hero's bedroom. Now, this is not true either. Don John has set this up. He has a henchman named Baraccio, and he's told Baraccio to go ahead and seduce Margaret, who is the maid of Hero. And he says, go ahead and seduce her in such a way that it looks like it's Hero. And so he has said, hey, wouldn't it be fun if you dressed up in Hero's clothes and we made out? He's like, oh, he's so silly. Okay. So they go to her bedroom, and she's kind of dressed up in her clothes, and he's like pretending. It's kind of a stupid thing to do, but it's kind of they're kind of making out as if that they are noblemen and stuff. But what these guys see from a distance is they see what looks like Hero making out with another man the very night before she's supposed to marry him. And he is very, very upset about this. He's, oh, I will never trust women again. And he's leaving and stuff like that. And John John's like, because he is just causing trouble. So the next scene is the wedding scene. Hero knows nothing about what Margaret has done or anything. And so they're brought together as if they're going to get married. And these guys are there, and these guys are there, and Margaret is there too. And the father is there, and he says, all right, I am giving away my wonderful daughter to you, Claudius, so that you can marry her. And Claudio says, well, I don't want her. What are you talking about? He's like, you, Hero, tell me where you were last night in such and such a time. I wasn't anywhere. Who were you meeting? I wasn't meeting anyone. What are you talking about? Well, then you are a liar, because I saw you with a... He basically exposes her in front of all of her friends and family in the town. And she's just humiliated and confused because she doesn't know what he's talking about. And the father's like, oh, why are you saying such things about my daughter? Don Pedro, Prince, certainly you've got to stop him. He's like, what do I got to say? I went about to unite my friend to a common whore. How dare you? And now she is really, really offended, and she faints. And he's very upset, and he leaves. And they're all very, very upset and stuff like that. And Benedict didn't know what was going on. He's like, what is this? He's like, what you got my daughter? Is any of this true? It's like, no, none of it's true, I swear. He's like, well, if none of this is true, then this doesn't sound like anything that Claudio or Don Pedro would do. I would put this on Don John. I bet he's doing something. He's a troublemaker is what he is. And the priest says to him, all right, I've got a plan for what we're going to do. They left when she had fainted. Let's spread the rumor that she didn't faint, but that she died of shame. And they'll hide her away, and bring her out when her shame is able to be cleared up. So the father takes her and leaves. Now, Meg has been sitting there this whole time. She could go ahead and say something, but she doesn't. Probably because she doesn't want to get in trouble. But in any case, she leaves. And the priest leaves and everything, leaving no one but Beatrice and Benedict there. And Beatrice, since her cousin has been humiliated, she's just been sitting there and crying. He's, oh, Beatrice, have you cried this whole time? Oh, and I would keep on crying. I'm so hurt. He's like, is there anything I can do? Oh, there's something someone should do, some man should do, but I don't have anybody that would really care very much. You know, Beatrice, there's no one in the whole wide world I love as much as I love you. Isn't that strange? Well, it's not so strange because there's no one in the world I love more than you. And they kiss each other and all this sort of thing. He's like, come on, let me see if I can help you out. Tell me to do anything you want for me. Oh, yes, please. Kill Claudio. What? But Claudio's my friend. I don't want to do that. Oh, he's not your friend. He humiliated and horribly said bad things about my cousin. Oh, if I were a man, I'd eat his heart in the marketplace. So you really think that he did this on purpose just to hurt her? Yes, yes, I do. And I want vengeance on him. All right, then. For love of you, I will go and get your vengeance. So he goes out, he's going to go out and challenge Claudio to a duel. Because of what, even though he believes that Claudio has been tricked, but he loves Beatrice enough to do that. So he goes over, and Claudio and Don Pedro are there, and he says, oh, can you believe what we just saw? And so like, yeah, I can believe it very well. He's like, grabs him by the throat and says, you are a villain. You and I will meet with drawn swords, and I will make you pay for what you've done. And he walks away. And Pedro's like, wow, he's serious. Jeez, what are we going to do? Now, into the middle of this, something else happens. Because you see, Borachio, he hears that Hero died of shame. He's not a horrible human being. And he knows, oh, I never wanted someone to die. He feels terrible about it. He admits what he did to the authorities. He was actually arrested anyway, but he admits what he did to the authorities, and the authorities then bring him, and they tell these guys all about it. And he finds out what really happened, and now he feels terrible. He's like, well, thank you very much for killing my daughter. Oh, I feel terrible. What can I ever do? What can you do? What can you do when someone is dead? Tell you what, let's go ahead and fix her reputation anyway. Go to her grave, sing a song to her bones, and then I will have you marry her cousin. She has a cousin that looks very much like her. I still want you to be in our family. I want your lands and stuff to be part of my lands now. So marry her, and then I will call my vengeance done. Now Claudio feels terrible, and he's willing to do anything he tells him to do. So the first thing he does, he writes this ballad about how wonderful, wonderful Hero was. He goes to the graveyard, and he sings this ballad about how wonderful she was and how she was slain by a fool that did terrible things without knowing any better. And then he goes to meet with the person he's supposed to marry. And everybody is there with them, and he says, so, where is this woman that I'm supposed to marry? Here she is, and she's got a veil over her face, so we can't see him. He says, can I see her before I marry her? Nope, nope, you have to marry her first. And then once you marry her, then, only then, will you know what she looks like. So he takes hold of this woman that he can't see her face, says, forgive me, but I will never really love you. Because all of my love from here on out must go to Hero because of what I did to her. And she then can't take it anymore. She takes her veil off, says, and I am alive, and I will always love you as well. And she forgives him, by which I honestly, I feel like she could probably be very angry and not forgive him. But they fall in love, and they're in love together, and they decide that they're going to get married anyway, and stuff like that. And then Benedict sees all of this, and he says, all right, this sounds like this is the best possible time to do this. Hey, Beatrice! Says, well, isn't it true that you love me? No, I don't know more than reason. Well, then they are deceived because they swore that you did. Well, isn't it true that you love me? Well, no, then they are deceived because they swore that you did. And he says, no, I'm sure that he loves you because here's a letter that he wrote to you about how much he loves you. And she loves you too because here's a letter that she wrote. And they read their letters and say, well, according to this letter, you love me very much, so I guess I'll take you because I feel bad for you. And I'll take you too because I feel bad for you. They both love each other, but they're kind of pretending that they're doing it for the other person's sake. And so they decide they're going to be in love. In the middle of this, Don John is captured, and they say, okay, let's deal with him later. Right now, let's go ahead and get married. And so they get themselves married. He marries her, and they all live happily ever after. It's a really fabulous play. Much Ado About Nothing. I would love to put it on one of these years. In the meantime, in the description, I'm going to link you to a playlist for a movie called a miniseries called Nothing Much to Do. It was basically somebody took Much Ado About Nothing, adapted it, and set it in a high school in Australia or New Zealand or something like that. Anyway, it's really, really good. It's long, but if you like that story and you want to see it done in a longer way, check that out. You will not regret it. In the meantime, we're going to talk about tragedies another day. In fact, it might take 2 more days. This has been a very long video, and the tragedies are even longer. The comedies are a lot of fun, and I really recommend that you check them out, especially if you think that Shakespeare is just all dry and death, because there's a lot of really fun stuff going on in the comedies. In the meantime, I want to recommend all of you go ahead and check out, if you haven't already, check out Susanna Lewis, who put her monologue up on YouTube. All of you can do that if you have the means to do that. I would love to be able to see your monologues, and we will see you again soon.